Hey everyone, so Lewis did respond to our video that we were talking about. Was he separating his opinions from the evidence when it comes to does VO2 max continue to improve or stop improving after 8 weeks or greatly slow down? As a reminder, we did a whole video on that where Lewis provided us with a study. We went through that study and we showed pretty convincingly that the group that was getting individualized training continued to improve after 8 weeks. In fact, they made their biggest gains. But he made some pretty strong claims that we were intentionally ignoring the data on the standardized group. And we did mention the standardized group in our video. We'll go ahead and show that right here. And even the people that, their improvement slowed, but the people that were getting general training still got some improvement in their VO2 max afterwards, while it was way, way smaller. And there was a pretty clear reason why we were focusing on the individualized group. We talk about that in the video, but we'll talk about that again at the end of this video. But we want to directly show very clearly the data on both sides of this, so you can see both the standardized group and the individualized group, show the time change, and really why we focused on the individualized group, in particular for this conversation as two coaches providing individualized training for people. Again, I do want to go out of my way to say that Lewis is a great coach, and in most cases, I see him following the science. I don't know why he is so hung up on this aspect of VO2 max stopping improving after 8 weeks. Again, he is the one that provided this particular study for us. We'll talk again about why this is kind of a strange one to show this with, and for a pretty clear reason. We'll show that when we get to the actual data. But this was his study that he provided to us. So that's why we're using it to really make our claim, because it's pretty clear that VO2 max does not stop after 8 weeks if you're doing specific things. But again, I want to go out of my way. Lewis is a great coach. He follows the science most of the time. In this case, I think that he's probably really dug in on being right here as opposed to really looking at the data itself, and is focusing on some things that are really not relevant to the conversation. And speaking of that, this really started as a conversation on hills. We are still going to do a part 2 on this where we look at different hill modalities. He made a pretty strong claim in his video originally about hill training being really only needed for really short, powerful type of hills, and that you wouldn't do any other type of hill trainings. That's what the first video was talking about initially, and then it went into this VO2 max aspect. And this is the study that we are referencing. So now here is all the data in terms of the time change for both of the groups, and there were 39 people in the study. This is all the data that you're seeing behind me in terms of where they started at baseline and where they got to. And yes, you can see that the people that are in the standardized group right here, they only had an improvement of 25.9 milliliters of oxygen per kilogram of body weight per minute, only improved to 26.0 or 0.1% improvement between weeks 8 and 12. That's pretty clear, and it is their smallest gain. However, in the individualized group, you can see that they went in that same time frame from 31.4 to 32.8, or an improvement of 1.4 milliliters of oxygen per kilogram of body weight per minute. And as you can see, that was their largest gain during the 12-week study. Again, showing that VO2 max clearly was not slowing down here. It was actually still rapidly improving while it stalled out in this particular group, okay? So let's take a look at what that meant in terms of standardized versus individualized, and why I really focused in on the individual in that first group, the individualized training versus the standardized training. And it's pretty key considering that both Lewis and me are going to be providing individualized training for people and not a standardized, one-size-fits-all sort of training. The way that they were doing it for the standardized group was your heart rate reserve, so very general for each person. There was nothing specific other than their heart rate reserve was setting their workout paces. In terms of the individualized, they were actually using their ventilatory threshold from that first VO2 max test that they were using. So it was personalized to them, it was individualized to them, and as you can see, the more they did it, the more they continued to do it, the more they improved, in particular after 8 weeks. Again, completely going against what Lewis said in terms of, you can see his comment right here when he was saying that it was conclusive that it would stop after 8 weeks. So again, I wanted to point out, this is a very strange study to be really citing this with, but I do want to use it because it's what Lewis used as his main reasoning why this is the case. This was sedentary people. There's people that weren't really working out that much, and then they started working out. So they were improving. The people that got a very generic plan stopped improving after 8 weeks, or it slowed down quite a bit. The ones that got a personalized plan continued to improve. that's what the coaches are designed to do. It's actually, we're supposed to be doing this aspect. If you hire a coach, they're making it based on your specific situation. And I do want to go back to the conclusion in this because I think it's really telling. And I'll put the actual exact words up on the screen here. I'm not going to read it directly like I did in the last video. But they were saying that people in our field, the coaches, the people that are specializing in this, if you are not seeing improvement after 8 weeks, as you saw in the standardized group, you need to reevaluate the training plan, make it maybe a little bit more individualized, look at their cardiorespiratory fitness. Maybe you need to add some intensity based on improvements that have happened because this group improved a lot over that time frame. So again, I think it's very strange that this was the particular study you used, but it's also going against what you said, Lewis. These people continue to improve on an individualized plan like I'm providing my athletes. I'm very sure that you're providing your athletes based on your content. You're not giving them a very standardized plan that is going to stop after 8 weeks, and I'm hoping that's not the reason that you're moving on. And I really hope that this is not the study that you're basing a lot of your stuff on, again, because it's mostly sedentary people, and it really goes against what you're saying if you're providing personalized, individualized training for somebody. But again, Lewis made the claim that we ignored this data. This is all the data, and this is why we specifically focused on this aspect. We did mention this, but it was not as relevant because, again, this is not what we're providing. This is not what you're hiring a coach to provide. This is what you're hiring a coach to provide. And I want to make that very clear here. We were not ignoring the data. We were really trying to focus on the data that was most relevant to this conversation. When you're doing targeted VO₂max work, when you're doing any type of targeted work, will VO₂max continue to improve after 8 weeks? This study that Lewis has provided to us suggests that it absolutely does. As you can see, obviously right here, their biggest gains were after 8 weeks. And the authors even say to the people that are involved, the coaches, the specialists here, if you're not seeing that improvement, you need to reevaluate the training plan. So no, Lewis, we did not intentionally leave out that data. We focused on the data that was most relevant to this conversation as two coaches who are providing individualized coaching experiences to our athletes. This is the whole idea behind this. That standardized group was meant to be, it's not a control because they're still going through it, but the authors were trying to figure out, did the people that were getting the individualized plan get more improvement, or did the people that were getting standardized training get more improvement? And as I showed in that graphic I had before, the individualized people absolutely continue to improve after 8 weeks, which was the whole idea behind the study. What is more impactful, a very standardized training plan based on heart rate reserve, or an individual plan based on their ventilatory threshold? And it's pretty clear in this data that the people that were getting that individualized training, they didn't just continue to improve, they improved the most after 8 weeks. So it's pretty clear here. We're using the evidence that you provided to us specifically. I know that I've seen this in several other studies, but I wanted to limit the conversation to what you yourself provided to us. Again, you sent this to us specifically. So that's pretty clear. I don't really see how you can see it any other way. Yes, the standardized group stopped improving, but that was kind of what was the findings of the study, and it's what coaches can take away from this, that we need to be continuing to individualize the plan for somebody, specifically if you see their VO₂max stopping improve, maybe from race performance, or in this case, an actual VO₂max test that they were doing every 4 weeks. So again, we really appreciate, Lewis, that you engaging in the conversation, but we absolutely did not hide the information. It was there, it was mentioned in the first video, as we already showed, but it wasn't really the focus of this because, again, we're trying to find, did the individual people get more out of it, or was it the same thing? And it was very clear that the individualized plans were superior to those that were getting a standardized plan. We're still looking at the data in terms of the hill training, which was really the start of this whole thing. And I think Lewis may have responded while we were actually making this video, so we'll take a look at it and see if there was anything that was in there specifically. Maybe he provided us that blinding study that he is saying that he sent to us a bunch of times that we still cannot find. We would have loved him to just sent the link or the PMC number or the actual title, as opposed to this kind of vaguely referenced, find a study by Blimey that does 800 meters to 1500 meters in terms of this. I would love to see that study, but we really did spend a lot of time looking at it. We talked about that in the first video. We were trying to find this. We can't find it. You did not provide it for us, even though you did mention that in a comment on the video that we posted here, stitching you initially. You didn't provide that. We asked for it a couple times and you just didn't provide it to us. This is the only study, the one on VO2max from 2019 that we've been referencing here in this video. That's the only study that you provided for us. So maybe you have it. We would love for you to send that to us. Maybe you did while we were making this video, and we'll take a look at it if that is the case. But again, the whole point of this is we are trying to separate evidence from opinion. We now have extra evidence that you wanted us to point out. Absolutely. And that's now very clear to everybody that we did not hide it before, but we focused on what was really the main point of the study. And the study absolutely found, secondarily, because what they were trying to find was which of the two types of training, standardized versus individualized, gets the most gains. But as a side benefit, it definitely showed that the individualized people continue to improve in their VO2max. Specifically, it improved the most after 8 weeks, even though, Lewis, you said that it would not. So again, we're going to follow up with a part 2 where we're really looking at the hill training. We mentioned in the last video that we've already found a hill study that really showed that for specific reasons you would actually do or get better improvement from doing more medium intensity hills. We'll go ahead and put that up on the screen here again, and we'll put that in the caption like we did before. But no, we did not ignore that data. We did talk about it, and in no way did we misrepresent anything by not highlighting it as much as we did with the other, because that was the point of the study, was to show which one improved. We said that one got marginal gains, even though it slowed down, but the group that's getting individualized training, they continue to improve, which was the whole point of this conversation. So, Lewis, if you have that study on Blimey, please send it to us. Maybe you already did, in which case we'll take a look at it. But we're looking forward to continuing to engage in this with a discussion on the hills once we've looked at the few more articles that we have on hill training modalities and how it improves specific race parameters.